Well, hello everyone, and thank you for checking in for another edition of the weekly wrap-up. We've just been chatting here, but before I start introducing you to the guys in the call, just look at my background. I'm actually in LA, and I'm coming to you from beautiful sunny LA. You wish it's February, and it's really not that nice outside. I think I got the worst time because it's raining like cats and dogs. But anyway, time to look at the US, and the weekly wrap-up has a bit of US there, which some of you may appreciate if you're in the US particularly, and those that are in the EU and have nothing really to do with the US will appreciate it even more because it's something you don't hear very often. And with that said, I'm so excited because look who I've got here. I've got David, I've got Carol, I've got Sonia, everybody's here. How are you guys doing?
Great,
Good.
thank you.
Very
That's
good,
really
thank
cool.
you.
Did you guys watch last week's episode on the International Customs Day?
Yep.
How was it? Did you like it?
It's great. It's great. I mean, I was just saying to everybody in the team here in Dublin that these wrap-ups are really great because there's so much information that comes through, even aren't from yourself. It's that I think the bulletin gets bigger and bigger every week. There's like so much information to digest, and it's really great to be able to just put half an hour in the diary and say, okay, that's my half an hour to catch up on everything during the week and have a
Well,
guided discussion. So I found it really valuable.
thank you, thank you. I mean, that's the idea, right? Every customs manager or export control professional should need to take time out to just reflect and exchange with peers. But do we really do that? Do we have the time to come together? So hopefully that's going to inspire more people to join us. And so with that said, let me provide you some context and animate the discussion a little bit, and then I'll try to wrap this up in 20 minutes or so, so you get a bit of time to just reflect on this. Let me share my screen, and then we can. I'll tell you what I've got for you this week. You can relax and enjoy lunch, or coffee or morning coffee if you're in LA. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here, so you might have a morning coffee like me. So this is the weekly wrap up for the 2nd of February of 2024. And last week we had International Customs Day, so we didn't really do a wrap up. So we're going to cover 2 weeks this time. So a lot more to do. What's a weekly wrap up? Well, this is a new service that we've started in 2024. And basically, as I've just said, as we just discussed, it is the opportunity for us customs professionals, export control and sanctions professionals to take 30 minutes out to just review what happened. Is one person presenting what their week was like in a way in terms of legislation. And currently that's me, but it doesn't have to be me, it can be someone else. I'll just kick it off, basically. We got 2 magazines, the Customs Manager and the Export Control and Sanctions Manager. It's free for anyone to attend. Registration is required, so we know who the numbers are. And the recording goes up on YouTube, so nobody can say they didn't have the chance to see it. And if you want the slides, you can get them after this call on the YouTube channel. Or you're going to get them with the mailing list in our weekly wrap-up email. So that's happening. Good. Then we have what? Next up, when it occurs at UK noon or 1 p.m. Brussels time. That's 7 a.m. Eastern time in the US. And as I have experienced today, it's 4 a.m. in the morning on the Pacific coast. Your participation here, it's very easy. You go to customsmanager.org events, and then you find the one that's current for this week or next week, or you can pre-register as you wish, and that's where you find that. We've done 2 of those already on the 19th and on the 26th, and today we're on the 3rd, which is the 2nd of February, and it goes on next week, and you can register when you get the slides as well. You also know that following this is a lunch and learn. That's a 30-minute expert guidance and learning roundup to your 1-hour lunch break. So we're going to see what kind of topic we have today. So 2 weeks ago, we did UK customs and import changes to BTOM. The second was the CBAM report. That was last week. And today we're going to look at UK safety and security changes. So that's not coming in until October, but it's 30 minutes and we're just going to pick out one topic and talk about it. And I am the guest trainer. And then next week is going to be a focus on UK CDS exports. So that's also changing. And on the 16th of February, we have a 2-part series on the Russians' war on Ukraine, 2 years on. We're going to look at EU-US then. And then the following week is UK sanctions. And then we've got some other ones that you can check out as well. And if you can't make it, as I said, you can watch all of this on demand, and you've got the links here. The agenda today is always the same. We're going to start with the Customs Manager magazine. I'm going to look at what happened in customs over the last 2 weeks. Then we're going to look at the Export Control and Sanctions magazine. Then we're going to look at what's coming up next week. Then look at quick overview and training, and then Q&A. If you're ready, let's go again. Please download the links, the slides, and the slides have all the live links. You just can click, and then you know it. How to access the Customs Manager magazine? Well, it's very easy. Here's the link. You can also just go on customsmanager.info, and this is where you find the current edition, as you can see here. You just click on it and voila. So go to info, Customs Manager info, scroll down, you'll see the Customs Manager. What in general has happened over the last 2 weeks? Well, one is, of course, International Customs Day, and that happened on the 26th of January. And we had Julianne Parks from the RTX Corporation speak about the theme, Customs Engaging Traditional and New Partners with Purpose. And you can watch that on demand and over on the YouTube channel. Looking forward, actually, discussion started this week more and more to intensify on the MC13 business or MC13 ministerial, the WTO. That's really important because of the question on customs duties that may come in on electronic transmission. And next week in the Customs Manager, please look out for the 170 companies and associations that signed a letter to the WTO chair to urge ministers not to abandon the moratorium on electronic transmission. And you'll see that pick up next week as well. So eyes turn to Abu Dhabi, WTO Ministerial Conference. There will be daily coverage from us on Abu Dhabi's MC13 and what it all means. So if you are interested in WTO, and that's really something you want to be on this channel, and you want to be on this YouTube channel, and you want to be live joining us for our updates. Again, it's something like 30 minutes. It's just because it's a key event in world trade, and we need to follow it. You can register for the WTO Business Forum. So I registered. I'm going to make my way there. It's a great opportunity to meet with ICC and meet with other partners, like-minded partners. So if you're not going to Abu Dhabi, please consider going if you can at all, because this is where the global trade community comes together. And I would like to see you there for sure. And up to the updates of the European Union. So the ones I picked, obviously CBAM. So with CBAM, we had the first deadline for the first report, 31st of January. There's a lot of information you can get on customsmanager.info, guides on reporting declarants, a guide for installation operators, guides per product group of CBAM product group, guides on the CBAM transitional register and how to file your first CBAM report, and a template for the installations and the exporters, as well as, of course, CBAM training, online training that you can book right away, or you can get the on-demand version. And the key announcement, of course, was that due to the technical difficulties, the reporting deadlines have plus 30 days to file the first report. And you can see here on the right what we've published. We are actually looking at LinkedIn posts as well as the page of CBAM. So here, for example, Khalid Abdullah from KPMG has shared his slide. And why would we not then report that? Because together we are making all of this work, right? And if people put something on socials, then we should be looking at that as well. And our service does that. And then there, so you can there see slides that you wouldn't see otherwise. So thank you, Khalid, for that. And then you've got technical issues related to CBAM. You can click on this link and then you'll know exactly what I meant. Also interesting that there are problems with ICS2. The one thing that people do not pay attention to, if you are in customs, you know this is really important, is classification. And here you need to be a bit geeky and you need to go into the Customs Committee Code minutes of the European Commission. Here is the idea of agricultural and chemistry, and that was in December. It's always published a month later. You have to navigate the EU Commission's website to find it. It's publicly available. But you need to know that if you're serving clients or if you are in a certain business that has to do, for example, with agriculture or chemistry here, because if the EU Commission is looking at your product and is classifying it, or at least around your product, something that's related to your product, you need to know that because that may affect your customs classification. So therefore, the informed and insightful customs manager looks here. Nobody else in the world does this, but we have to do this because we need to know what the EU is coming up with. And it is these discussions that end up being EU decisions later on in the OJ. We're going to cover these two, but then they're law. They're still not yet law. You can prepare. And also you can have interesting, if you're an advisor, you can have interesting client conversations. So if you have someone, for example, who is in, say, neck pillows with wheat and lavender filling, or neck pillows in general, that might be something you want to talk about. And you get a lot of information on how to classify these things as well. So we've got this covered. All you need to do is click here and then click there, also discussing at the WCO level. So the EU goes to the WCO and sees what they're discussing in their HS28 committee. And you can see that there are amendments coming. So if you're dealing with these kind of products, you want to read these in particular. And we cover that here. Obviously, another big item is the UCC reform proposal. So you now need to shift your opinion to the European Parliament because this is where the action's now happening. If you're interested in UCC reform and EU customs union reform, if you don't know what that is, you've got to check out other videos we made on this, or you've got to reach out. We'll cover that extensively, from trust and check to the customs data hub to e-commerce impact to everything. But the current state of affairs happens in the European Parliament. So they are discussing changes, and these changes can significantly have an impact on your operations in the future. This is a long way away, but you've got to be aware. Okay, so the link is all here, and you can see that when you click this link, you're going to get a detailed report on what happened in the European Parliament. So you don't actually need to watch the video because we've summarized it for you. So over to the United Kingdom. If you have questions on this, just write them down, and then we can talk about it afterwards. Over to the United Kingdom. Obviously, I'm still buzzing about the UK Veterinary Border Control Conference. What a success that was. 300 people, 320 people registered on a topic like veterinary border control. That's pretty big, from all across Europe, including my own nation state, Germany. German vets were present, which was really great. From Ireland, of course, lots of interest from Ireland, but also from Italy, from Spain, from all parts of the world, and of course the United Kingdom. And now we're past the 31st of January and the world has not collapsed. And if you look at the veterinary conference, the recording is online, you may think that it was a bit doom and gloom. Because at this time, we didn't have the easements that are currently being introduced. So today, the world didn't change. Why? Because this is not enforced yet, right? So maybe also thanks to speaking up, for everybody to speak up and say, do you know what, we're not as ready as we thought. It is now a good idea that the UK considered this a learning time where we check EHCs, export health certificates, but we're not going to stop any consignment. And that's why you haven't seen the queues at the border, because of two things. Number one, they're not going to stop any consignments. And two, if you do not have an EHC, you're not going to get punished. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have one. It just means there might be legitimate reasons while you're struggling because you're negotiating with your VAT about how to sign this. In Germany, you have this big issue of pre-certificates, for example, and it took a lot of efforts to help the Germans understand that pre-certificates and a united European Union on their fellow member states is not really in the spirit of European Union, is it now? So luckily that happened, and so therefore crisis averted for now. But the next milestone of April the 30th is coming. So if you want to know what happened, you please look at the UK Veterinary Border Conference. Everything's online. It's 3 hours long, and it's been very insightful, sure. Over back to the UK, the next big ticket item is the code 999L. So if you're filing customs declarations in the UK using CDS for imports, then you need to know that code 9993L has expired now and is being replaced. And we got a full report that you can check out. Everything's explained. Just click there. Could go on and on and on about this. It's really big, especially with the outage that we had yesterday, which took me all day to resolve because of all the customs declarations that we filed. And everything went on hold when CDS just on this very crucial point just shut down. So CDS is a whole beast by itself, and you can check all out. Staying with the IT, the EU just for a moment, because I nearly forgot that we have ICS2 phase 3, which is coming in now a little bit delayed later, but we've updated our guide. So now it covers maritime trade as well. So ICS2 phase 3, a pre-arrival, pre-departure kind of notification service, pre-arrival notification service. So lots to discuss and unpack here. If you want to know more, there is the link to a free guide. You can read everything, you can download everything, like if you were a paid subscriber, but it's free. Not many articles like this exist because you do need to contribute financially for this to work. But this is a free one to show you how the depth of our reporting and our analysis, which again is just aimed to help customs managers and professionals to understand these things quickly at any. Quickly over to the United States, a lot to report there, but good items are that there's no government shutdown. So that was avoided, but this entire we threat if you don't give is still looming, and that would be quite bad for CDP as well as the port authorities. You need to join us for the TFCS summit. It's just a must event, simply as you must be there. Don't forget that if you're interested in the US, you need to read the customs decision and bulletin. That's not an easy read, but it has to be done because all the slip opinions, the legal opinions are in there, and we give you the link. And don't forget, there were lots of rulings lately on rogue anti-dumping duty evaders. And there is chilling reports of how to the lengths to what people go to avoid the 232 duties or anti-dumping duties. So you got to really read these because these are fascinating case studies, and they can all be found in the slip opinions and also on the CBP websites. Then over to the Export Control and Sanctions magazine. Now we split these two, so customs and the other one, into a separate magazine because it's just too much. Otherwise, we will just overload of information, and nobody can do it justice. And as a result, you miss things. So we split it into two. Also noting that export control professionals, sanctions professionals, and customs professionals, they're in the same space, but they may have different priorities. And export control is such a big topic, and so is sanctions, that they deserve its own magazine. So here you are. This is the own magazine. Again, how do you access this? Same deal as before. You go to www.customsmanage.info, and this is where you just scroll down and you will see it there. So key thing to remember, we covered 4 things here: diligence, anti-money laundering, export controls, and sanctions. And the key thing actually is on anti-money laundering. In the EU, we have a new deal on stricter rules. And this obviously goes beyond sanctions and export controls. It goes into every life, so to speak. So this is not something that you can just use for your specific subject, but it's actually bigger than that. Anti-money laundering has a lot to do with due diligence, and therefore we need to understand that as well. And we need to really zoom in into the changes to the 6 anti-money laundering regulation. So you can get the press release of the Parliament, you get the EU Council release, and you can start thinking about what that means. And if you want to occupy this space, if you're in consulting, and this is something to think about. And if you are into into finances, sending money abroad, then this is something you cannot ignore. 2 weeks ago, so we're looking at edition 3 and 4. So in edition 3, I told you about the updated common military list of the European Union, so you might want to check this out. But the news happened last week, of course, and that's a proposal for a new economic security infrastructure in Europe. And that has 5 new concrete proposals to strengthen the economic resilience of Europe, which is really important due to the geographical tensions that you see. And that includes a white paper on export controls that you have to read. And you can see here what it is proposing. Again, we've taken the white paper, we read it, we summarized it, so you can go to the link in the Export Controls and Sanctions Manager and read it. And that is a quick introduction to the white paper. So if you need to know what's happening, boom. Before you go into a meeting with important people, read that, boom, you're up to date. So that's the idea, right? To empower export control professionals to be up to speed very quickly without having to spend hours researching. Gels have changed in the UK, so take a look at that. I'm not sure to what extent you are exporting to these nations, but you should know when old gels change and you use old gels, then you need to be aware of that. That's a big change. Otherwise, you might accidentally find yourself in non-compliance, and you don't want that. So that's what this magazine is all about. Review it, take 20 minutes out of your busy schedule instead of 15 hours researching what we research every week for you. You just take 15 minutes, and that saves you a lot of time. Over to the US, so this has caught my eye. It is a bit old already. It's from December, but hey, you know, we find at odd places, so sometimes you miss things, so you just pick it up later. It's the 90-day review report of the chairman, Michael McCall, and this is about how we're going to transfer US technology to China in the future. And this is about how we're going to set the export controls and our relations with China in the future. And obviously, given the extraterritorial nature of US export controls, this matters from Ireland to Romania to Poland to Japan. And of course, this is read in China, and corresponding actions may be taken, as we've seen so many times. So therefore, this is a report that you really want to read, and this is the link to it. Now back to the UK, we're jumping a little bit in export controls, but this is because I found so many interesting things over the last week. So this one is another one that I want to talk to you about, and this one's really again for advisors and you know, also consultants and lawyers. And this actually is your guide. So the UK, who has a very similar regime to Canada, Australia, EU, and US, has issued a guide for advisors and how you carry out a firm-wide risk assessment, how a risk assessment should look like, tips for completing a risk assessment, why there's a risk of sanction breaches, and what you can do in what time. So you want to be checking this out. The guide is there. You just need to click on the link, and then you can download it and you can start looking at it. And this is the kind of stuff that you easily miss if you're so busy doing other things. So therefore, I need to point it out to you. Okay, and that is highlights of what I have for you this week. Just want to show you what you can expect next week. So there's a new webinar I really want you to register, and it happens on the eve of the outbreak of the war in Ukraine. So that happened 24th of February 2022, and on the 23rd of February, 1 hour before the wrap up. So just remember the wrap ups at 12. So from 11 to 12, we're going to do a moment to appreciate that it's been 2 years. And we're going to look at how the sanctions landscape has changed. And we're going to look at the laws, but we're also hoping to invite interesting guests to come talk to us. So rather than lecture at you, it will be more of a conversation. If you know someone who should really be talking at this event, you please reach out to us. We are very interested in having interesting speakers. It's only going to be an hour, so the intervention is going to be short, but I don't want to do this all by myself. So if you can just, let me know of anybody you think who has a really interesting story to tell and wants to be at this webinar, then please come. And obviously register on www.customsmanager.org events so that I know you're interested. Okay, so let's make this a collaborative effort. We are open to people coming to us and telling us they want to be part of it. And the last announcement I have here is on International Women's Day. So we do the same again as we do every year. Otherwise, last year I had 2 amazing women that I spoke to and had 2 interviews. This year, we're going to do a session, a joint online session, and we're going to honor the success of women in customs and global trade. And this is really important, and it is really inspiring as well. It's one of the highlights of the year for me to hear these interesting stories of how female leaders made it big in customs and global trade. And And that's what this is all about. We invite you to be a speaker if you are a woman and you want to talk about your career, your life, and you want to tell us and inspire other women that are thinking, is this right for me? Can I make it? It's on the 9th of March, I think. Actually, I need to check the dates right. And then if you want to be part, we're going to develop this program over the next weeks. It can be an hour, it can be 2 hours, it can be 3 hours, it can be whatever. See what feedback we get. So please get in touch. And the timings for next week have shifted slightly. The customs manager, we're now going for Monday, 6 a.m. still. Export control manager shifts to Wednesday because I just can't make Tuesdays. It's impossible. I've tried so much, but there's so much going on, impossible. So we're going to move it to Wednesday, 6 a.m. And then the live wrap-ups is with Fridays at 12. And we might shift the lunch and learn a little because I'm always running over. So I can never make it on time. So we're going to maybe shift that a little bit. The key events, as I've said, is 26th to 29th February. So you want to start talking about that right now with whoever and get people excited about the Ministerial Conference. And don't forget, we have these weekly live events. We've got trainings, we've got webinars, we've got courses, we've got education. We do this on-demand online training. We've got online guides, and we've got, of course, explainers, everything on shop.customeasure.org shop. The other ones on events. And then we've got the info for the live briefings. I want you to connect on socials. I want you to like what you see on manager on LinkedIn pages. Comment if you don't mind. It would be really great if you like what we're doing here. You just got to speak out and invite as many people and share and like so that more people get to join us, which builds the community that we want of professionals. There's YouTube, there's X, there's LinkedIn, there's a call, there's an email, live meetings you can book at any time. Just go to org and then book expert call and you've got me. And I'm all so I'm going to stop sharing. I hope you had a good lunch. And now I'm interested to hear what you say. Carol, what do you think now that you've heard all of this? Do you want to go and share your thoughts on everything I said?
I'm just thinking I've got an awful lot to read next week. That was really interesting though on the UK guidance. I wasn't aware that the sanctions guidance and the due diligence, because that is becoming an increasing issue, particularly with the EU controls on the strategic exports and the requirements for the new information on the to put on contracts going forward from March. So I think there's a real increased focus on the potential for diversion of goods. We're seeing a lot of products ending up in Russia that the question is, of course, how they got there. And with the US focus on China as well. So that whole knowing your supply chain, knowing your end user, putting the due diligence controls in place for export, I think is going to be a real focus for this year.
I agree with you. And what's interesting, I read the guidance, and it is, although it is for the UK, there's so much you can transfer out of it and can use it for almost any circumstance. If you're in the US, it's useful. If you're in the EU, it's useful. Yeah, the context may not even the context, the law, the legal laws may change, but the principles are provided there are really, really helpful. That's why it needs to be shared with a broader audience and not just, UK lawyers, so to speak.
Yeah.
David, do you have anything? Do you want to share to this on what you've heard? Anything that jumped out and made you say, "Wow, that I didn't know," or you may disagree with what I picked, or you may say, "Arnie, you missed this," which would be interesting.
No. There was one thing I just saw on LinkedIn this morning, and that's the introduction of the legislation for the binding valuation informations. So that's an important one for us, one to keep an eye on. So we already have the BTIs and the BOIs in the European Union. So now we have the BVIs, which will be interesting to see how they're operated and when they're actually implemented. But no, it's a wonderful resource, Arlie, and congratulations. It really is fantastic. You must have a huge team. That's all I can say.
Well, there's magic nowadays, right? We all have a lot of different ways of getting the support. But I'm telling you, so two things on this, if I may. So one, my team's also called LinkedIn and X, because all of us together, we share information, and it is such a useful resource. Because I see a different LinkedIn feed than you do.
Yeah.
Right? But what if we brought it all together in one space? so that you don't lose it. And I'm accrediting, if I sign the link or you find useful documents, I'm telling who that was, who posted that, right? So we can all connect and we can all, like I did with Abdullah, right? But the world is too complex to start thinking about who did what. We have information, people give their thoughts, and it's really, really useful, and it should go into the update. So that's why the team's growing every week, because of you. Also, David, you're very active on social, and you post so many useful things, and I read them
Stop,
with
Daniel.
great interest.
You're making me blush. Please stop.
And on the BVI issue, actually, I spoke to HMRC this week. We had a workshop on customs valuation, I believe, and we came to the really complicated case on transfer pricing and OECD versus customs valuation. And I said, well, what if I applied for in the UK, you have AVRs, right? Advanced Valuation Rulings, effectively the same. What if I applied for that? Would that give me the answer to the question, how will I deal with transfer pricing versus customs valuation situations? And the answer was, no, it won't. All it will do is it'll give you the methodology you should be using, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And I mean, that's helpful to a degree, but I actually need to know so much more. For example, if I'm dealing in the space of, is it evaluation method 1 or 6? If it is 6, the thing I came up with, the solution I came up with, which is really complex in the case of transfer pricing arrangements, is that okay for HMRC or for Irish customs? And the ruling will not give you clarity on that. It will just say use method 1. But if it says method 6, what are you going to do?
That's really interesting. I think like one of the lunch and learn sessions would be great to just focus on the transfer pricing and customs valuation, because it's again something that we're seeing an awful lot of in terms of intercompany transfers. So that'd be something I would certainly enjoy.
Yeah. Okay, great. Does anybody else have a question or want to take the floor? Now is the time.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I've been following you for years now, and all I was ever thinking, like David said, is when do you get time to do all this? Because I'm looking at your post. One day you're here, the other day you're there, but you also continuously updating, your work, and you're publishing. You're so active, and everything that you say, that you share, it all makes sense. It's very easy to follow. It's very easy to get access to information. So really, really appreciate your work, and obviously the work of your team behind you. So fair play.
Thank you so much. That's really important that you say that. It's really, really good feedback, and it means a lot to me because it is a lot of work. And I counted, we're going into 16 hours, and that's 2 days, solid days, only researching this. If one person were to do it, right? So I'm not alone, obviously, but there's a lot of work that goes in there. But at the same time, the one thing you read through all these updates, all the customs manager and the export control sanctions manager is passion. I hope you see that. And passion, the more complex and geeky you make it, the better it is for me, which is exactly, I believe, at least, if I were to hire a customs person, that is the kind of person I would like, or export control person, because so I read things like the CBAM gets delayed. I'm thinking, and then I find more guidance, and I go, so how do you calculate CO2 emission for hydrogen, or CO2 for electricity? I've never heard of this before. I'm not a CO2 guy. And out of a sudden, people call me and say, how'd you do it? I'm like, well, what? I'm a customs guy.
So Arne, you're ex DG Taxud, right?
Well, I'm not actually. I worked with DG Taxud, not ever for. I'm ex DG Tren. So I worked in satellite navigation systems, would you believe?
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Well, I believe those default values come from the JRC in ISPRA.
Well,
Center in ISPRA. Yeah.
there's another element to it, right? I had dinner with the JRC lead for industry policy, and there's an interesting dynamic of how important research, or how much research and expert research influences decisions at European level. And with the transitional values, I mean, guys like us, we go, oh yeah, finally they're published. My God, we can survive. We can make a report. Like, we would never get these values from you know, Abu Dhabi or from China or from Japan, because all the producers saying, what do you want? Go away, let us work, right? And now we get these provisional values, and we're all excited. We're like, guys, did you see this? And my clients go, Arnie, I am trying to make money. I'm trying to serve my customers. I do not know what provisional values are, nor do I want. So we're in this world where we are all excited and super geeky, and nobody has a clue about what we're going on about, which is great and scary at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, good, guys. I've took you away from your work and your lunch and your weekends for long enough, and also the guys for the lunch and learn are waiting already. So I've got to make a move. Thank you so much for checking in for
Thank
this
you very
week.
much.
Super
Thank
good
you,
to see you again. Next week we're going to go again from the US, and then I'll get back to Europe. So thanks a lot for joining us. This will be online right now. The next thing I'm going to do is upload it, plus the slides you can also access. I'm going to share the link online as well. So all you need to do is look out of your inbox. In your inbox, you're going to see this recording, and you're going to see the slides. And then if you don't have the, if you're not on the mailing list, go to www.customsmanager.info. and then leave your email address there, and it's going to magically appear in your inbox. Voila. Thank you so
Thanks
much,
a million.
guys. Have a great weekend.
See you next week.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.